The
children of Congo have been dying for years. Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the strength and all the strategies necessary to support its states so that they can find peace. We will not even talk about us here in the Sahel. For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the scene of international terrorism. But we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem. Worse, a few days ago, a foreign country in Africa openly announced that it had supported and participated in a cowardly, terrorist, and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation. The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference. The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference of a foreign state in Africa in the internal affairs of our states. I would like them to hear this shout and get out of their silence and take action so that the youth can believe in the African Union. We must unite. The only way to unite is to talk to each other, to understand each other, and to be able to establish the basis of this unity. They tell us, Thomas Sankara tried to do this, but he is dead. President Haitian tried to do this, but he is dead. Gaddafi tried to do this, but he is dead. These are words that we take in a veiled way to scare us. And we often see some young people trying to take our path in a different way. We can hear them say, such and such person ruled like this, he is in his country. Such and such person ruled like this, he is in prison. All this to try to scare us so that we become cowards. Africans have been traitors so that the slave trade succeeds in Africa. It is because Africans have been traitors that colonization has been able to sustain in Africa. Let us question history. We will see. Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba, was betrayed because he dared to hold his head. And these same beautiful televisions came to the Congo for a few bids extended to individuals in the Congo for an interview to please their population. And you were able to follow that. Lumumba bothered us. He is dead. We are happy. It is treachery. Many other heroes have fallen so that we are here today. And it is a technique of imperialism to frighten others by taking action to really create terror. It has not started today. In any case, we would appreciate your feedback on this matter.
Burkina Faso would have been one of the most beautiful countries in Africa had Sankara lived long. The man who said to his people, here is the land, you must produce for the government and produce for yourself. Sankara who loved education. Sankara who gave our people health care. Sankara who knew that there will never be total liberation of people if women are not liberated themselves. Sankara who knew that a political activist must be equipped with theory of politics, because a soldier with a gun without political theory is a potential criminal. That's why political education is always important.
Hello guys, my name is Golden Boy, and Malema is trying to praise the president of Burkina Faso, that is Ibrahim Traore. And guys, Have you ever wondered why Africa, as much as we have always have the presidents who are having goodwill to help Africa, they are usually leave sanctioned, or the coup will be done, or the person will die? Why do you think so? So in this video, Malema is going to try to explain as to why Gaddafi died and most of the legacy he left, not only Gaddafi but also Thomas Sankara. So guys, I want you to have a listen in this video. Then at the end of the video, I'll try to explain why Africa has always lagged behind and why there is so much Westerners here in Africa.
There will never be a discussion about the security and good governance in Africa without acknowledging the damage that has been caused by colonizers and the imperialist forces. Africa's inability to be peace with herself, it is necessitated by the fact that colonialists want to exploit our minerals without being held accountable. It is the colonialists who are corrupting the leadership of Africa and making sure that those who are not corrupt are replaced by the corrupt puppets who will allow colonialism to continue in the African continent. Any battle you can imagine anywhere in the continent, it has got everything else to do with those who colonized us before. Today, they want to choose who are the leaders for African people. As we stand here today, Gaddafi should be an enemy of our people, according to the declaration of the Western imperialism, because Gaddafi stood for our people. Today, Mugabe, who was a darling, if you think Mandela was loved, you must revisit your history and check when Mugabe was becoming the president of Zimbabwe after the defeat of Rhodesia. He was the most celebrated man. He was loved by everybody until he started questioning the issue of the land, that the land must be transferred from the colonizer to the people of Zimbabwe. But when he was not advocating for that, especially after the Lancaster resolution, they thought he's one such a gentleman who will allow them to do as they wish, until he realized that he was going to pass on without transferring the means of production into the hands of our people. Today, every African leader who served for a very long time in Africa, we are told is a fascist, is undemocratic. This person is a dictator. But such words were never said about Queen Elizabeth, who ruled for more than 50 years. And it's not just monarchy, like a Zulu monarchy or Abatembu monarchy. It's a monarchy that has got powers on the political systems of Britain. There is no any prime minister in Britain who can proceed with anything else politically without the go-ahead of the Queen, now the King. No one of those prime ministers can declare a war. Only the Queen or the King can declare a war. But that person has never been democratically elected. That person has got no term of office. They serve until the grave, and they are not called fascists and dictators. They do so with our leaders because they want to impose on us the imperialist bourgeois democracy. That democracy is when you go for 5 years and you are done. But as young people who are engaged in this space, you have a duty to ask yourself, how did we govern ourselves in the earlier primitive society before the arrival of the colonialists? And we're not asking here of an ancient history. Very recent, you'll realize that we were able to govern ourselves without being dictated to by the white people in terms of how we must govern ourselves. Today, we must be told that a good governance is a governance that complies with IMF or World Bank. Anything else outside that, even if your people are benefiting, you are not a good leader. Actually, you are a dictator. Let's go back to Gaddafi himself before he was killed by imperialist forces. Gaddafi nationalized the oil industry when he took over Libya. And he made sure that the people of Libya receive free health care and housing. The people of Libya actually used to get a piece of land for getting married. That's why many of you will remain single, because you realize there's going to be a problem here. Immediately when Gaddafi died, we saw Africans being taken by force in Libya as slaves, even post-colonial period. After Gaddafi died, Libya, which we're told it was under dictatorship and the most brutal man, has never known peace. It is under the group of warlords. It is under the group of terrorists, under the militia, and the people who are forcing themselves into power through a barrel of a gun. Today, one of the most unstable countries is DRC. Lumumba did not serve too long, because when Lumumba came in, they realized that this guy is going to create independence in the DRC, where the most strategic minerals are found. Since the passing of Lumumba till to date, DRC has never known peace. They will never know peace because those who are exploiting the resources of that area are the ones who are sponsoring the rebels in that area. They don't want authorities in DRC, because authorities will mean that we must also control the airspace of Libya. And when you control the airspace, you know which plane came in to do what and went out at what time. They are sponsoring rebels, doing land strips in the forests, where they land and take the minerals undetected and leave DRC. Today, DRC was supposed to be one of the most richest countries, but the imperialist forces will not allow it to be. So, Sankara was killed. And when you think Sankara was killed by his friend, that one was just the one who pulled the trigger. But there are brains behind that man who pulled the trigger, who, by the way, was a friend of Sankara. Burkina Faso would have been one of the most beautiful countries in Africa had Sankara lived long. The man who said to his people, here is the land, you must produce for the government and produce for yourself. Sankara, who loved education. Sankara, who gave our people health care. Sankara, who knew that there will never be total liberation of people if women are not liberated themselves. Sankara, who knew that a political activist must be equipped with theory of politics, because a soldier with a gun without political theory is a potential criminal. That's why political education is always important. Sankara, who said, I'm not going to be part of borrowing money from IMF and the World Bank. So these leaders, I'm singling some of them out because I want to demonstrate to you that those who seeked good for us did not stay long. If you come to South Africa, Chris Sani's crime was not because he killed anyone, was not because he was mobilizing anyone. Chris was just speaking his mind. Not because he went to mobilize the people of Alexandra, not because he went to mobilize the people of Eastern Cape against what the negotiations was talking about. He just said, this is not what we went into the bush for. if we are going to take it through a barrel of a pen and we don't fight, then you must know we'll never realize that which we went to the bush for. And they realized that this man cannot be persuaded, not even by money. And they did not waste time. They finished him off. Because when we were negotiating for our democracy and thinking it's a peaceful transition from resistance to democracy, we actually found our leaders negotiating deals instead of negotiating for democracy. You need to go and do a research and ask yourself, when did the Vodafone deal come into South Africa? Vodafone. There were no cell phones. Vodafone was not here. Vodafone was negotiating with the apartheid regime just before the negotiations for democracy started. When the negotiators realized that, amongst other things, these people are talking about a wireless phone which is coming to South Africa, they stopped the negotiations and went to Vodafone, or you are talking to wrong people. We are going to take over after these people. Come this side, and even if you insist on that deal with those people, when we come in, we are going to cancel that deal. Go and check out who were the black people who were part of a deal of Vodafone, what you call Vodacom today. And you must ask, once you know their names, then go and check what was their role in the negotiations. Then you'll have an answer why we are where we are. They didn't have to kill them. They just have to corrupt them and give them the necessary resource to undermine the African struggle.
Thank you for watching this video up to this point, and I'm very glad that you learned something from Malema. Now guys, the question is, why are many African countries considered poor? Is really a complex and multifaceted involving historical, economical, political and social factors. So here are some of the reasons why these African countries always considered a third class. One is about the colonial legacy. We will find that European colonialism left a lasting impact on African countries. The arbitrary borders drawn by the colonial powers often ignored ethnic and cultural divisions, leading to conflict and instabilities. Additionally, the extraction of resources during colonial times did not benefit local economies, but rather enrich the colonial powers. And this is what Malema is trying to talk about, and he has really sustained that there are some of the people who are going to Congo, and they are making sure that the Congo airbase or the airspace has been occupied so that they can steal many minerals as much as possible. Remember, Congo has cobalt, Congo has nickel. So these nickel are being used to make Tesla, are being used in Microsoft, are being used with within industry which are using these cobalt minerals. So guys, that is one of the reasons why Africa is remaining poor, because there are a lot of extractions, and we as Africans, we have been blindfolded to only believe that there is heaven, and yet our heaven is already here on earth. Another one is about the political instabilities and corruption, and I believe this is the major one, the major problem, because you'll find that many African countries are forced or are facing these political instabilities, including the coups, civil wars and weak governance. Like you'll find corruption can divide, corruption can divert resources away from developing and undermining institutions, because during elections, this is where the political instability happens, because there are usually an installation of a leader who majority of the citizens or a majority of the nations don't want, because they believe that election has been stolen. And you also have to know that there is a lot of tribalism in Africa, because they always wanted to elect their people, and the majority, the larger the tribe, the likely their president is likely to be elected. So corruption, this is where the presidents this is where many legacy is in. because you'll find that what these people don't know is that what Africans don't know is that it is the same leaders who sponsor this corruption. These people intentionally corrupt our leaders, and if any leader refuses to align within their boundaries or within their rules, they will sponsor a coup and even reject him out, or they will also try as much as possible to remove him from this world, and that is death. They will try as much as possible to do that, because if you see most of the presidents, most of the people who have died, most of these legacy people who have tried to raise to make Africa great, they usually live a long time, because they know that the moment Africa rises, they will be in a disadvantage. Another one is about the economic challenges, and you'll find that many African economies are heavily dependent on a few primary commodities like oil, minerals, or agricultural products, making them vulnerable to global market fluctuations. Remember, we as Africans, we are having a lot of oil, we are having a lot of minerals, we are having a lot of agricultural products, but these products or these factories are not here in Africa, and majority of these factories are outside Africa. You make wonder why there is so much minerals in Congo, yet there are few factories. So when you go to other countries which are being colonized by the French, you'll know the reason why this is happening, because you'll find that the French countries which were colonized by French are not having these factories, but their factories are located in the French countries. And this is where you'll find that there is so much economic challenges, because there is poor infrastructures, there is poor roads, there is the energy system cannot even handle. Like if you go even to Nigeria, you'll see that there are often blackouts. They don't have that constant or power. Another one is about the education and health issues, because access to quality education and healthcare can be very, very limited in some regions. Remember, these corrupt leaders are the people who are supposed to create or build these hospitals and schools, but this is not happening, because they believe that if it is their time to eat money, they are going to do it to the fullest. So they will not make this happen. And you'll wonder, where are these people going to treat their children? They are not going to treat them in that hospital, in that country. They'll rather fly out their patients or their daughters outside, or themselves outside. Then there's also another one about the global trade inequalities, where you'll find that African countries often face trade barriers and receive lower prices for their export compared to the cost of their imports. This is just making sense that you'll find global trade policies can sometimes disadvantages these developing countries. Then the major one is the debt burden. Even right now, we are being forced to have a loan from the IMF. But what happens is many African countries carry significant debt burdens, which can limit the ability to invest in developed projects. Remember, these debts usually come with the conditions where they tell you by this age you should by this period you should have paid this debt. And I want to open your eyes and tell you that we have a debt right from 1960s, right from 1940s, okay, 1960s, and up to date. There are also certain debts that are supposed to be paid up to the age of 2045. So those are debts which are going to mature that time, 2046, 2060. So how are we going to how are we going to liberate ourselves from this debt? Is when we start opening tax bases, many tax bases, and we pay back their money. And then Africans should limit themselves from borrowing money from these banks or these companies, because these are the people who are chaining us into poverty. And high debt services cost can crowd out spending on essential services. Okay. Then there's also another one about the social and cultural factors. You'll find that traditional practices and social norms can sometimes impact economic progress, However, these are not a universal negativity and can also play a role in fostering community resilience. So what I'm learning from this video is that Ibrahim Traore is trying to remove all these problems which we are facing, which majority of Africans are facing, by trying not to collect debt, by trying to remove these people from their country. Remember, Ibrahim Traore they have tried to assassinate him almost 15 times, close to 15 times. But this is not happening. So I believe Ibrahim Traore is the next leader to make Africa great again. The only way we can do that is when we support his ambition and other leaders start copying what Ibrahim Traore doing. Because if you go to Ibrahim Traore's country like Burkina Faso, you'll find that there is so much development. And he surely has proven that we can develop without the Western ideas, without the Western loans. We can really develop. So, what do you think about this video? Was it educational or what? Thank you guys for watching this video again. Once again, see you in another episode.